forget to turn your
Right.
mics on.
Now you never know who's gonna watch and send you a text message.
That's right.
Yeah, right?
That's right.
I think they have to, yeah. Is my mic on out there, Liz?
Boeing still
Is my mic
manufacturing
on?
these, they're doing
Hello?
57 a month, yeah, I saw that.
I never remember.
I hope they
I never,
wait.
yeah.
I hope they figure out what it is.
I think the green light's supposed to be on.
Yep.
There, now you're on.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the March meeting of the Board of Aviation Commissioners to order. You shall receive documents either hard copy or electronically, or even potentially both. And the first thing on the agenda is the minutes of the February board meeting.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
You still, Gene can still
Motion
sign it.
carried. Claims. Nick, what particularly do you want to bring to our attention tonight?
The only two that are out of the ordinary are Cryotech de-icing technologies. Because of the severe ice that we had this year, we have had to purchase more runway de-icing fluid. And so that is that $4,976.21. And then the other non-standard one for BIT computers for the $1,956.99. Some of that was some work that we had to do just to upgrade some switches and some infrastructure at the airport. And then another chunk of that was for an iPad for the airport. We are looking into ways that we can communicate with our pilots while they are still flying. ForeFlight is a very popular pilot app, and it is Apple specific. So we are looking into ways that we can communicate with the pilots while they're in the air via texting, so that they can get runway condition reports before they get to the airport, so they know what they're flying into in inclement weather.
Nick, the de-icing material that you buy, if you don't use it, does it store?
Oh, yes, yep.
Okay. I mean, from season to season.
Oh, yeah, it's got a, I don't remember off the top of my head, it's either a 3 or a 4 year shelf life. And we don't order enough that sets us, you know, where we get concerned where we're gonna run out of it.
Right.
But we like to keep about 500 to 600 gallons on hand. 500 gallons is typically enough for 3 applications. We use between 200 and 250 gallons per application, depending on the ice. But a couple weeks ago, when we had such thick ice, that one morning, we put almost 500 gallons down just
Right.
that one morning, so.
Okay. And that you obviously have not a truck tanker, you've got a
We have a
separate tank that you store that material in?
So that it comes in, they're called IBCs, intermediate bulk containers. It's a plastic container inside of a steel cage, and we just leave them in the IBCs.
Gotcha.
And then we have a trailer that holds, that has a tank for both the fluid and the solid de-ice, and then we can choose which one or both we can apply.
Okay, thank you.
The only other one is American Electric Power for $3,901.89. That is our annual fee for the maintenance of the lights, the obstruction lights on the power lines. That, fingers crossed, we will not have to pay too much longer once the power lines come down. So unless you have any other questions.
And we've been paying that every year. Same amount?
I believe so, yeah. Linda,
Sometimes it's more.
sometimes it's more. It's an annual fee, yep.
Any further questions for Nick on claims?
I move we accept the claims as presented, especially the $1,295.44 for accident aviation group.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Ken,
Okay,
provided us with a written report. Go ahead and start talking.
Okay, well, in front of you, you have a written report that also has some minutes from the FAA meeting that we held last month, as well as some email communications with the FAA and AEP. Also, is a copy of the capital improvement program that you approved back in January that was sent to the NDOT. This is the first opportunity we've had to bring you a hard copy. On the engineer's report, no activity on the 2 grants, so nothing much to update you on there. On the 3 projects, runway 1836 rehab, we had provided Nick with some 80% plans a couple months ago. We're getting ready to upload the construction safety phasing plans to the FAA's website that they have to review and approve those. And we anticipate letting that project for bid in mid to late May, even though we know that it's not on the agenda for getting funded. If we hear at the last minute or supplemental funding or some projects get shifted around, we want to have bids in hand. So we plan to have bids in hand in June so that we can be ready to accept any money if it should become available. On the runway power line program, I think Nick reported quite a bit of information to you after we had our meeting / conference call with the FAA on February 12th. The FAA was still organizing or coordinating the pen and ink submittal, which was the new elevations for the power lines. They thought they would have that review complete by March 1st, but we have not heard from them on that. The only comments that they really had during the meeting at the time was AEP had given us an email correspondence that said, we've reviewed your surfaces. We may have to tweak a couple of pole heights or locations, but we're comfortable that we can stay below your surfaces and accommodate your 1,000-foot runway. FAA didn't like the word we may have to tweak. So, and what they meant was that during final design, we may have to shift a pole 10, 20 feet or lower it a foot or something, but they were comfortable that they had that leeway. The FAA said, we want them to go ahead and make those tweaks, submit them to us, let us airspace those, and put it in a letter, and we want it on their letterhead, and we want it signed and all this stuff. They're basically asking AEP to do a design level submittal, even though they're not getting paid for a design level yet. So the nervousness with AEP now is they said, I have to escalate this up a few levels before I can put my name on a piece of paper. And so he was supposed to have a meeting with his department lead last Thursday. He hasn't called me or returned my calls yet, but we're trying to find out for sure where they're at with that process. Again, they didn't think it was going to be a design problem, but with the FAA wanting that additional level of comfort, they want to feel really good about it as well too before they put their name on paper. So we're still trying to coordinate on that.
Correct me if I'm, seems to me understanding how that works, but let's say they do a complete design, and then as we get closer to construction, they say, we gotta change the design a little bit, because this thing's gotta go 5 feet, because we got this huge piece of granite there we can't dig a hole in.
Right.
They have to get FAA approval of that anyway, right?
We do that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Normally, we only in the planning stage give a concept. It gets approved on the ALP, then you go into design, then they get another chance to take a look at it one more time. And you're right, if we even find something in the field that we have to change again, if it's even a close call, yeah, we get their coordination again.
So if AEP had just in the back of their head said, we might have to make adjustments as we get to final design or construction, we wouldn't have a problem. The fact that they actually said it out loud is why we're having these difficulties.
Yes.
Okay, just make sure I understand it.
Good.
So basically, it's just another excuse for the FAA to stall.
That's my opinion.
They want excuses.
That's my opinion.
I'll reserve comment for later.
I mean, I gather probably more day, I think you're right, for work, you just wonder why they don't have a willingness to commit one way or the other. I mean, stalling doesn't help anybody.
No.
They commit one way or commit the other.
My question on that comment they made about maybe have to tweak this, is it because the conditions may be changeable? What flexibility do they need to be able able to say something like that.
Well, what it was is, that invisible surface is like this because the line crosses it at an angle. So at its lowest point down here, we lowered the poles to follow that, but one of the poles is kind of inbound. Well, then the next pole out here is quite a bit higher. So if you draw a straight line from this pole to that pole, it kind of gets into that surface a little bit. So all he was saying was I might have to move that pole over closer to the edge, or lower it, or lower that one. I mean, that's all they were saying is that we see some really close areas that we might have to adjust just to make sure we're clearing that space.
The other concern that AEP has is if the FAA changes their standards to what these poles need to be lowered to between now and the project, they don't want to have a piece of paper sign that says, no, they will never need to be lowered further than what this design right here is until the day that they start the construction. Because if the FAA comes back, say we get the grant money this year and construction is next spring, we're hoping it's before that, but if that happens and then in January the FAA changes their policies and this is the new standard, AEP doesn't want to be on the hook for that extra money and be out that cash. So that's the other issue that they are having some hangups with.
Well, the FAA uses words in their emails like, we don't want to move it twice, or we want to make sure that it's okay now before we commit any dollars whatsoever. So then, you know, when you're asked to commit to that level, you want to spend a little more time on it and make absolutely certain. But like I said, us that are in the industry, like Jay's mentioned, you have to make adjustments on the fly all the time. Sometimes it's on a day of construction and you just do it and you get it, you know, you upload the as-built information later. And, but I think it's just them making certain that we've crossed our T's and dotted our I's. We're asking them to commit a lot of money, and so they're doing everything by the book and doing their checklists. And but
So the language maybe could have been a little better in the AEP.
well, we could have taken out the words we may have to tweak or something like that. I mean, I tried to clean it up as much as possible and ask them, hey, revise this a little bit, but it's just,
Okay.
yeah. On the airport layout plan, I think Nick kind of reported on that a little bit as well too. He showed you the 3 exhibits with the existing, the short-term and the long-term. I'm gonna say that finishing up this ALP is like building a car, and that we're building chassis, frame, tires, motor, all that stuff. The FAA is supposed to give us comments on the transmission before we build it. They promised to have us comments on those drawings that Nick showed you. We gave those to them on February 12th. They promised to have us comments on the 26th. As of today, we don't have any comments from them. It's exactly 2 weeks late. And they even sent us an email saying, yes, we're still reviewing that. We do not concur with those yet. But then in the same email, they want to know, okay, where are you at with the ALP? And so we're saying, we can't send you an ALP until you give us comments on the runway end coordinates. We've got it done as far as we can, but, so Nick and I talked about it today. We're just going to go ahead and assume that it's going to pass, get it done and submit it to them, and then let them either approve it or deny it.
The ALP as it sits is designed to their standards. It meets every single standard that the FAA has for an airport layout plan right now. And I don't see any reason why it would not be accepted as it would be submitted. So I told Ken, let's just submit it, and then since we're still waiting on comments, I'm tired. The ALP's been going on since 2012.
Yeah.
So
the other thing-
ALPs are supposed to take 2 to 3 years, and it's just been this back and forth, constant changing with the FAA, and it just needs to be over, and we need to move on to actually getting some of these projects
Yeah, I
done.
think Nick showed you that on the long-term ultimate, it's the overlapping of the 2 runways that they have the biggest heartburn with. And what happened is there was an accident in Lexington where 2 runway ends were close together and a pilot got on the wrong runway. He was in a RJ, needed 7,000 feet. Well, he took off on a 4,000 foot runway and killed a bunch of people. So now they look at every airport that has runway ends close together, and how can we make sure this never happens again? And so they're being overly sensitive to this, but we're not proposing anything that wasn't approved in the 1999 ALP. We had submitted that intersection layout to them in 2016 when we were looking at the adjustments on runway 1836. They didn't have a problem with it then, but now all of a sudden they're just wanting to, again, cross their Ts and dot their Is.
And the worst that can happen is we submit that before they give us comments on the geometry. They come back and say, hey, this gotta be changed.
Right.
And
Then we just gotta take that 500 foot of pavement off and change a bunch of services, things.
yeah, so we either get their comments, wait and change, or we go ahead and file
Right,
and wait their comments, wait and change.
right. Or wait and no change.
And no change, yeah, either way could be no change.
Right. But we just thought it was kinda odd that they're asking us to, when are you gonna submit the next draft? And we're saying, when are you going to approve our runway in coordinates? Because that's the foundation of the whole ALP.
They probably actually forgot that they haven't responded.
We reminded them about it several times, and again at 1:30 this morning. I said, just so we're on the same page, we can't finish the ALP until you concur or deny our long-term concept.
So you and Nick both think, let's go ahead and get it filed.
Yes.
We satisfied with that? Yep. Okay.
What do you got to lose?
Yeah.
That's
That's what I'm trying to
just
figure out. See how it
time,
hurts.
Some of your time?
just more of my time. But, you know, it's a gamble. If they don't deny it, then we're good. Meanwhile, Nick and I are gonna talk about a strategy of including some people on some emails to get some interest again. Other than that, like I said, I gave you a copy of the capital improvement plan, so I don't have anything else to share tonight, unless there's any questions.
Any further questions or inquiry for the engineer?
Nope. Okay. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Nick, we're up to you.
Fuel usage report, we'll start there. As you guys can see, we're about 9,000 gallons down compared to where we were this time last year. I think a lot of that has to do with the exceptionally harsh couple months that we've had so far. In February, I know of 16 flights that we were not able to have land at the airport because we did not have the full 6,000 feet for landing. And because the other side of that is we don't have a hangar to house those aircraft during the day to make sure that no ice accumulates on those aircraft. We do have tenants that are willing to rent hangar space to those aircraft. So these 16 that I know of anyway were solely because the runway just was not long enough. And if you think an average of anywhere from 400, I think our smallest jet fueling in February was about 400 gallons. Our largest one was 2,800 gallons. If you average those out, even at 1,200 gallons times 16 operations that we missed, you're looking at almost 20,000 gallons of fuel that we didn't sell in the month of February just because of the power lines and the road there. So that's why Ken and I are working so hard to try and get these projects done and why they are so imperative. But with the fuel pricing restructuring, we are about at the same amount of revenue as where we were year to year. We're actually up about $6,000. So that is helping to offset some of those costs and or losses, I should say. Excuse me. So unless you have any specific questions about the fuel usage report or the income report.
Nick,
Mhm.
have you had any kind of feedback that the higher fuel prices compared to what we had a year ago have affected the sales?
Not anything at all, no. The corporate tenants that I have talked to said that we are still far below what they are used to paying at other airports, and the corporates that I've talked with have that's transient and based, nobody has any issues with it because they know that with the higher costs that, or the higher dollars that we are charging for the fuel, that we are putting that directly back into the airport with crack repair, with lighting repair, things that need to be taken care of. They understand that an airport is an expensive venue and that they need to help maintain it as well. So we have not heard any negative feedback whatsoever.
Any other questions on the fuel report? Income.
Income report, sorry, I just exited out of that. Year to date, we are in the red, $14,558.58. Some of those are just, again, the low fuel sales. We've got to just keep selling fuel and bring those numbers back up. So outside of that, I don't know specifically what to say unless you guys have questions on that.
No? Okay, what else you got for us?
This just came in today, so I apologize for not having it in the, this will help with the bottom line a little bit. We did just receive a request by a John Gleason, who is wanting to rent one of the airport-owned T-hangars that is currently sitting vacant. And he's going to be storing a Cessna 172 at Warsaw and flying in and out quite a bit. And if the board approves that lease, that would be, that lease is for $150 a month for that T-hangar. And then we would also have another aircraft on the airport as well, buying fuel and renting an unused hangar, so we'll help with that.
18A or?
Yes. Mhm. Yep.
Okay, any questions? Entertain a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the hangar lease from Mr. Gleason. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
There's one more for you. And that is all I have, unless the board has specific questions for me.
Anything else from the board? Mr. Shoemaker, Mr. Mayor, anything?
All good, thank you.
Okay. Well, hearing nothing further, we will adjourn, and our next meeting is, sounds like April 9th.
I believe that is correct.
Sound right?
Yes,
Okay.
April 9th at 5:15.
Very good. We'll see you then.